took everything from me.
I don't even know who you are.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another YouTube video, and in this YouTube video we are going to be talking about the truths that I learned while I was in the military. More specifically the Navy. Hopefully by explaining some of the things that I didn't know before I joined is going to help you guys determine a decision on whether you guys should join or not join. Now disclaimer before we start, I'm not trying to bag on either the Navy or the military. All of these points that I'm about to tell you guys are all from my experience and the things that I have seen. So your experience can most definitely be different. However, at the same time, you just might experience a few of these things in the military. And all this is really just to help you better prepare for any decision you are prepared to make. And with all that being said, let's go ahead and get right into the video. Now the first thing you can expect is separation. It's no surprise that the United States Navy has bases all throughout the United States and all over the world. So your chances of getting stationed really far from home are pretty high. Now if this is something that you were looking for, well then there you go. But for those of you who are really friend and family oriented, this can be a huge deal breaker. Communication can definitely lack depending what time zones you're in. Deployments are also a very serious reality that you're going to have to face that can also put further strain on relationships. And even depending on what kind of command that you're stationed at, you may not always come home. Now hold up, I'm not talking about just war. I'm just talking about coming home on regular everyday leave or even during the holidays. You see, depending on how busy your base is, your leave chip may not get approved as soon as you would like, or even get approved at all. The highest chances of you knowing for sure whether you're going to go home or not are going to be during the holidays. And even then, sometimes you don't know for sure if you're going to go. So just keep that in the back of your mind before you make your decision to join the Navy. The second thing is you are on call 24/7. It goes without saying that the Navy is a 24/7, 365 all year round gig. But I'm not talking about just getting called to war or for deployment, although that is a possible reality. I am more talking about just getting called into work. See, there are going to be plenty of days where you have to come in early or maybe stay late or even maybe both. And the time that you get off depends on what time you get the work done. Also, the Navy really loves to use the word teamwork. So that means if you and your division or shop are finished with all their work, you are not going to leave until everyone else is done with their work. This means potentially you can stay late up to hours after you were originally supposed to get off. Now this isn't going to be an everyday thing, but I will tell you right now, you will most likely definitely experience one of those times. But like they say in boot camp, just embrace the suck. The third thing is your chain of command. Think of your chain of command as a corporate ladder on steroids. If you get told to do something by someone of higher rank, you will do it, regardless of the age or experience. For example, one time I had to take a toolbox down from above decks down to below decks. That thing weighed about 100 pounds, but just because some other third class could do it and I was still an airman, he thought I was just being lazy and didn't want to do the work, even though I kept consistently saying that I needed help. This led to an argument that went back and forth, and after about 5 minutes of arguing, he just sent me downstairs to go stand at attention right in front of the office. Now this was a person only 1 year older than me and only one rank above me. So yeah, you can imagine I was pretty annoyed. Now the second example of a corporate ladder is one time I just had one question to ask about my career. I ended up skipping my entire chain of command and going straight to the ship's career counselor to ask that question. I really thought nothing of it, and 5 minutes later, after I had my question answered, I went back up to my work center and was later called into my divisional work center 5 minutes later. And I was completely chewed out by my senior chief for skipping my chain of command over one question pertaining to my career. So if you're okay with taking orders and following your chain of command, well then you'll do just fine. But for those of you who aren't, well then this is definitely something you want to consider. Also, I do want to mention something pretty important, and that is going to be your upper chain of command. These are going to be people like your chiefs, senior chiefs, LCPOs, and so on. You see, a lot of these people kind of grew up on the old Navy mentality, which was a lot of long hours and hard work, and a little bit of hazing to kind of throw into the mix. Now yes, sometimes this can be completely unjustified. However, a lot of these upper chain of commands do really have a good heart, and for example, I have never met a chief that wouldn't offer to take their sailors home after a long night of drinking if they were too drunk to drive. They would honestly rather see their sailors safe and secure rather than out there on the streets. I have even heard of plenty of instances where chiefs and LCPOs and stuff have gotten their sailors out of trouble from the police. So that should tell you a lot about their character. So just know that a lot of these high supervisors can definitely give you a lot of tough love. Now some chain of commands could be a lot better than others, and all of that really kind of comes down to luck, which is going to be number 4 on this list. Luck will really determine on where you're stationed, how many ports you just might see, and even ranking up, and a multitude of other things. An example of a luck in advancement is myself. I am a 3rd class petty officer, and I can't probably even tell you 7 tools that we use in my toolbox at work. I know almost nothing about my job, and yet somehow I made petty officer. This was really due to the fact that I didn't have to take the test because of COVID, so all they did was just choose people on how good they looked on paper. Now that is a special exception, so something more common that you'll probably experience is your advancement rates. An advancement rate is a percentage based on how much demand there is for a certain job and rank. For example, if you're an airman trying to make 3rd class, and if there's an advancement rate about 40%, you have a 40% chance of making 3rd class. However, if you can't take the test until next year when those advancement rates change, the next year it could either go up or lower. And in worst case scenario, it goes higher, making it that much harder for you to make rank. Now don't get me wrong, hard work and motivation will definitely get you far. But from my experience, I tend to see the people that got everything that they wanted right off the bat to enjoy the Navy just a little bit more than other people. Now the 5th one is a bit of a serious one, and that's depression. Some of us in the Navy or military in general have jobs that greatly influence the levels of stress that we have. In an article written by Healthline, about 14% of active duty military members have depression after deployment. And this isn't including any sailors that have depression that either aren't on deployment or that decide not to seek any help. The combined stress of being away from home or being on deployment and being away from family and friends can all be a recipe for a very bad time. So at some point during your military career, even if you don't face depression, you might just face a little bit of sadness. And that percentage tends to go up, especially during the holidays when a lot of sailors can't go home, either due to deployment or simply the squadron just doesn't have enough personnel to support people leaving to go home. It is so important that if you start feeling sad or depressed, that you go talk to someone, more specifically your friends or family. And if you can't talk to them, there is always a chaplain on call 24/7 that you can go to for help. So please, if you do feel some type of way, please go and try to seek the help. Because believe me, the Navy really does offer help for sailors who are in that position. Now, number 6, regardless of the cool advertisements you may see on TV, our job is pretty boring. Now, I'm talking about the everyday working rate. Some of those rates include CS, LS, ABE, and a multitude of other rates. You see, some of these jobs, they don't work extremely hard unless you're on deployment, so when you're in port, there's almost nothing to do. There will be many hours of cleaning combined with standing on watch, waiting for the workday to end, with hard work occasionally coming in. And if you don't have a car, well then that boredom can definitely be amplified. For those of you who are going to be living on the ship, you most likely won't be receiving BAH, and that is something that I've explained in the last video. Which means, even at the end of the day, after work, when you leave the ship, you can either go to MWR, QAD, or McDonald's to use their Wi-Fi or whatever, and then you have to go back to the ship at night to go to sleep. So it's almost like you never really leave work. Now this can vary greatly depending on your command. For example, I'm stationed in Norfolk, and definitely someone that's stationed in San Diego is gonna have a lot better things to say. And last but not least is number 7, and that is going to be deployments. I'm just going to go over this briefly because deployment can be a whole separate video, and I do intend to make that pretty soon. Now, as soon as you exit boot camp, you are pretty much deployable. After 3 months after I graduated boot camp, I was well on my way to my very first deployment. And unless you have a medical condition and or are pregnant, yeah, you're probably going on deployment, bud. Now, the harsh reality of being a sailor is exactly that. You are a sailor. So don't be surprised if you're at sea for a month straight to all the way to 5.5 months straight. God, I can only imagine what that would be like. The longest I've ever been out to sea was 60 days. And some of you guys may be like, whoa, that must be pretty cool, seeing dolphins and waves and oceans and all that. Yeah, it was cool the first week, and then it really started to die down after that. 60 days in, everyone had pretty much lost their minds by that time. Now, unless you work above decks, you will probably only see the sun about 10 minutes a day when you're doing FOD walk down or behind a cage when you're in the smoke pit. Other than that, you're gonna have a lot of fluorescent lighting just beating down on you 24/7. But on the brighter side of things, you will experience some pretty cool stuff from deployment, such as white rainbows, very big waves, seeing some pretty cool ports, if you see any, and you'll have some pretty cool sea stories to tell. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and absolutely sink that like button into David Jones's locker. Waiting, did you sink it? Unleash the cannon, fire, boom. All right, you liked it? All right, cool, thank you. And I will see you guys next time.